Is Tom Holland the biggest movie star today? He might just be. What's going on, guys? I'm Chris, and welcome back to another video. Today I'm going to be giving you my review of Uncharted, the movie that is based on the video game franchise that stars Tom Holland and Mark Wahlberg. Street-smart Nathan Drake is recruited by seasoned treasure hunter Victor Sully Sullivan to recover a fortune amassed by Ferdinand Magellan and lost 500 years ago by the House of Moncada. So before I give you guys my thoughts on this movie, make sure to hit that like button, comment your thoughts or expectations for this movie down below if you have not seen it yet, and make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on any future videos like this one and other reviews. So I went into Uncharted with very moderate expectations, cautiously optimistic if you want to say, because I have played all 4 video games. I think they're some of the best video games I've ever played. They have perfect storytelling, and I love Nathan Drake so much as a character. And as I played through those games, I always said this would be a perfect story to adapt onto the big screen. I personally enjoyed the cutscenes more than the actual gameplay where I was doing the work. I like to sit there and watch it as if I was in the movie theater, because it very much does feel like Indiana Jones or National Treasure, which is a lot of terminology that you're going to see thrown around in movie reviews for this movie, because damn it, it has those vibes. And I'll go ahead and cut to the chase. This movie was a blast. I had a ton of fun with it. The track record of video game movies is that they are usually misses. I did not find that to be the case with Uncharted. Any movie featuring Tom Holland's probably going to get a lot of eyes on it and do well at the box office, and it's because he's a star. Yes, he's Spider-Man, so he has that going for him, but we get to see him really act in this movie, and I really felt for Nathan Drake as a character. Now, it's a little bit of a different twist in my opinion from what we see in the video games. There are certain callbacks to the video games that I enjoyed, especially with his character, The Ring playing a really prominent role in his character arc. His relationship with his brother Sam is sort of explored in this movie as well. And of course, his relationship with Sullivan, which is like the key dynamic of the Uncharted franchises, their duo. Wahlberg and Holland, 2 megastars going back and forth. They made me laugh quite a few times. I think Mark Wahlberg's probably the funniest character in this movie. He's got those great one-liners and awesome comedic timing, especially in scenes that kind of broke the tension. I really liked what they did with this character. And I was riveted by a few of the action set pieces in this. I mean, from the opening shot alone, I knew I was in for something special. I got to see the movie in IMAX, and it was awesome to see the visuals of this film. Again, it reminded me personally of a lot of National Treasure when they have to steal the Declaration of Independence. There's one scene in particular in this movie that reminded me quite a bit of that. And as a diehard National Treasure fan, I was eating it up.
I'm gonna steal the Declaration of Independence.
Something that kind of lacks in big blockbuster movies nowadays is like physical set pieces. And for me at least, I thought it was really cool to see these actual set pieces constructed, whether that be a hundreds of year old underground setting or a pirate ship. There's a lot of cool things that are physically constructed sets, and I really can tell when it feels authentic. Now, of course, they're going to blend in that CGI, but that's just a part of the modern world we live in. I love when there's a lot of attention to detail put into actual artifacts and the production design of movies, and I thought Uncharted really utilized that. And I was hooked into this movie right out of the gate. I mean, the opening of the movie alone let me know, okay, we're going to get this adventure here, but let's set up our characters first. They utilize flashbacks really well without overdoing it, and that kind of paid homage to certain moments in the game, in my opinion, and I was a big fan of what they did with that. Now, I will say the movie has a little bit of a pacing issue. I think about an hour in like the middle act, it could definitely take its time and slow down and not really know exactly where it wants to head, but it picks up full steam in that third act, in my opinion. So there are minor pacing issues, but I feel like that's most movies nowadays. You know, you got to have your time to slow down, and they don't do the best job of fleshing out every single character in those slower moments. I think Tom Holland as Nathan Drake has the most time to shine. Now, this movie has its fair share of surprises, I think, and it caught me off guard a few times. I won't reveal anything. A lot of movies nowadays can feel predictable. This one was at times, but at the same time it wasn't. If you've seen the movie, I feel like you know exactly what I'm talking about. And, you know, I didn't see everything coming from a mile away like I have with other movies. Now, there are certain moments of the film where I was like, okay, I guarantee you they're going to set this up here, and they did. I'm dancing around spoilers. If you've seen the movie, you may or may not know what I'm talking about. And a main issue I have with this movie, aside from the fact that it can be somewhat predictable and it has a little bit of pacing issues, is the fact that the villain is just very one note. And I feel like that's the case with most blockbusters nowadays, is you have to have a villainous presence or an antagonist to drive the plot forward, and movies don't really take their time to flesh them out as much as they should, and that is kind of the case here. It's just very one note. Oh, I want to get this cross and I want to find this treasure because it's in my family. I need it, I need it, I need it. You only really get to see one side of them as this one note villain, almost like in the early phases of the MCU when they would just have this villain who wants to take over the world. It's like, oh, another generic villain who just wants the treasure for themselves. Genetic connection isn't enough for me to be that compelled by a villainous plotline, so it's kind of like eh. But at the end of the day, Uncharted is why you go to the movies. I had a blast. It was escapism for 2 hours into this adventure. I had a ton of fun just hanging out with Tom Holland's character, Nathan Drake, seeing his interactions with Sully. I would watch another one. I think that there's a possibility we could see a sequel depending on the box office outcome of the film. And I will say there's actually 2 post-credit scenes. Like, they took the MCU route. I won't say what happens, but I really like how they set up the future of this franchise. And I would be there to see another one tomorrow. It has its issues. It is not a perfect film. But at its core, it's a blockbuster, and it's a really fun one that I think a lot of people are going to enjoy. Now, I know the main discourse around this movie is going to be video game to movie adaptation and the comparisons, and I will say this movie doesn't reach the level of storytelling of the video game. I was more really entranced with the storytelling and like the puzzles and the more problem-solving aspects of the video games than I was in the movie, and I feel like they could have incorporated a few more in-depth set pieces in the movie to kind of pay more homage to the games and make it feel a little more like Indiana Jones, where you have to do a little more work to solve some of these puzzles, as at times it felt a little too easy when they would try and get out of these tricky situations or have to problem solve, you know, in a cave or in a scenario where they're in some ruins. I wish there was a little more time spent on that and we really got to see like the problem solving aspects, but that's not an overbearing flaw because it kind of makes up for it in the action department. There's also a really cool cameo that I noticed immediately, and then I went on Twitter and saw people talking about it. I won't say what it is, but if you have played the games, I think you will be a fan of it. The movie's also self-aware of the fact that it is kind of taking on this Indiana Jones vibe, as there's references to Indiana Jones and other adventure films that it takes inspiration from, and I always love when media does that and is like acknowledging what it's taking inspiration from, because sometimes I feel like people just like steal their ideas and everyone compares it to this one thing, but this movie's already kind of ahead of the comparisons and understands that it's taking inspiration from great projects in the past. All that's to say, Uncharted's a blast. Make sure to go see it in theaters. I had a ton of fun with it. As far as video game adaptations go, it's probably my favorite because it is vastly different from the games, but it draws a lot of inspiration from it, and moving forward in this franchise, hoping we get sequels, I think they could definitely do justice to some of those games and take really inspiration from those stories and do justice to them on the big screen. This movie definitely reminds me of like the A-Team from 2010, where it was a prequel of sorts and really set up a story, and we could have gotten sequels. We didn't get any more A-Team movies, which I was actually kind of bummed about. I hope these actors come back for more. I want more, and they really set this franchise up to be successful moving forward. Is Tom Holland the biggest movie star in the world today? What do you think? Let me know in the comments down below, but that's going to do it for my review of Uncharted. If I had to give this movie a score, I'd go like 3.75 out of 5. Really enjoyed this one. My score could go up over time. It's a movie that I could see myself watching a few more times before the next one, hopefully, because I really want to see another one. I was really happy with this. I've seen 3 movies this year. This is my favorite of the year so far. But what do you guys think of Uncharted? Let me know in the comments down below. Let me know what your expectations for this one are if you have not yet seen it. Make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on any future reviews. If you would like to see me do a spoiler breakdown or review of Uncharted, let me know that in the comments down below as well. But it's time for me to go. I gotta go catch a flight across the globe to go on a treasure hunt. Peace.